The goal today is to snowshoe high up into the mountains to this location called Appleton Pass. And that's about 5,000 feet, I think, and then about 6,000 feet just covered in snow. But this summit has views of Mount Olympus, which is a massive glaciated peak over here in the Olympics. And then has views of all the other ranges, which are also still covered in snow because it's early spring. So I'm gonna get everything packed up here, hit the trail, and start snowshoeing. I just got up over the top of Appleton Pass, and it is really nice up here. It's about a 2,500 foot climb over 3 miles. So there is the first view of Mount Olympus that I've had with it completely visible. And then Seven Lakes Basin over there. Bailey Range starting right out there. What a day to be out here. It is about an hour before sunset, and I'm gonna start shooting now because I wanna make sure I get this in case these huge clouds roll through. You can see there's a cloud coming in here, and those peaks back there where my tent are completely covered. I was noticing how the top of the scene has this line going through it, and then there's that big dark cloud above it. So I try to take the bottom of the scene and mimic that same type of shape in the snow right down here. You can see it right there. Now, the middle of the scene, I'm using these trees for scale. So if I zoomed way in, I was doing that earlier, and I noticed that there's those small ridgeline trees that can kind of show scale, but you can't really see the color of them. For these trees, they're getting hit with this really nice backlight. So you can see the sun setting over here, which is backlighting this whole landscape, and it's bringing that green out in the trees. And I'm gonna use the green in the trees with the blue for my color harmony in this image. So it's gonna be like a cool, moody feel. And I think that'll match with the fog really well. So those trees kind of just provide this center line. So here you can see the sky that I was talking about and how it's mimicking the shape of the foreground. This is going to add balance across the both sides of the shot. And then I have the most interesting part in the center. Everything else is just going to be to show scale and to move the eyes through the photo using what I call transitions. Transitions should be all over your photo. They're just things that move the eyes from one place to the next place. So if something is not sharp, such as here, and then it goes to sharp, your eyes want to escape from one thing they're looking at, not sharp or diffuse, to sharp. And then they're going to go to not sharp again, and then sharp, and then not sharp again as this snow, sharp, and then not sharp again. So you can use these transitions of sharp to diffuse all over the image. That's why I like to take multiple shots with all these different cloud formations at the exact same composition. You'll notice in the background right now, Olympus is just getting dappled with light right back there, and it just looks so cool. You can see these ranges in the Bailey Range back there. I've hiked on all those ridge lines. Not this time of year though. Wish I had that kind of skill. So these are just continuously rolling through, and I'm just leaving my composition in the same place here and shooting as that light changes and as the weather changes, and then I can overlay these in Photoshop and blend them together. You can see how quickly that moves. This is still really nice over here. Now you can see the sun kicking through a little bit there, but I think if I wait, this is going to end up being the perfect conditions. I'm just hoping it holds on. The easiest way to simplify composition is you have to keep the viewer's eyes constantly moving through the photo. If they get bored, they're going to move to the next photo and they're not going to look at your work anymore. So transitions can be used all over the photo. We can use other things such as color for transition. So you can have cool colors such as the snow or anything that's in the shadows right here on the color wheel. And then directly across from it, it's called a complementary color. You guys can check out my color harmony photography guide or just Google Dave Morrow color harmony. It'll come up. You can download that PDF. But warm colors where light's hitting are also transitions. So if your eye's in a cool area, it's going to want to move to a warm area. So you can use that to move it up to different tonal values all throughout the image. That's why I'm going to leave this dark down here in the final image and this dark in the final image when I edit it. And then I'll work in all these different transitions of dappled light through the center, and that'll keep the eyes moving all over the place across this mountain range. Let's fire another one off. I'm shooting these all at f/16 because this foreground's pretty close and I want to make sure it's sharp. Let's just check down there and just double check it. It's always hard to tell with the snow if it's actually sharp. I can see everything sharp in the background, but I'm just going to drop another focal point down here in the foreground. Back button focus on that just to make sure I have one. I'm just shooting at f/16 because it's just going to make it easier. Whenever you're pushing up on a full frame, like from f11 to f/16, F16 is not going to be as sharp. My lips are so dry today from all the snow. F16 is not going to be as sharp because of lens diffraction, but it will be a longer depth of field. So I'm just going to take the trade-off. This is a super sharp set of glass and camera anyway, so I don't think I'll notice. Oh, you can see this rolling through here now. Man, good thing I got over here and shot that. That's one thing I can tell you guys. When you spend a lot of time out here and you learn how weather works, just trust your gut instinct. If you feel like it's time to shoot because something might disappear, just go hit it. Even if you think you want the best light later, just knock it out so you have one in the bag, because I've had it happen where I have these really nice views of peaks. It's a clear day, and then getting close to sunset, full cloud cover, then you got nothing. So get a few insurance shots in, and that one looks really good. One thing I want you guys to take a look at here is how much the detail in the light changes when you have this reflected light. So the sunset's back here, it's hitting here, and then it's going to reflect down into this area. So that's why it's important to take multiple shots. So what I like to do is I just take the base file and then I just mask over all the other files, and then I can see what I want to blend in. So I know that this file is going to be really nice for down here. So I can just grab my white brush and I can just mask that in. It's going to have a lot better detail because it's got that reflected light going on. So just a quick blend there. And even though I might darken the snow down here, it doesn't matter because I want to bring this detail in first so I can see it really well. And then you could just hold shift and see if you like any other parts of this. You might say, okay, well, I like how this cloud comes down there a little bit. You could test it out. And if you don't like it, you could just back up a few steps. So this is a really good way to experiment with the lighting values across your image. Then you could look at this file and say, do I like any of this light coming through? I kind of like where it's hitting this diffuse light back here. And always keep in mind your transitions. You don't want to take away something that's going to add to your image. But if we make this diffuse, then the eyes are going to move to Mount Olympus here, which is sharp. So that's why I'm adding that right in there. Then we go to this next one. We hold shift and hide it. And then we could also do a few touches of diffuse light in here. And then you could just dial your opacity to blend that in. And remember, if we have this as the center of attention back here, if it's diffuse around the edges, your eyes are going to move more quickly to this. And then you could just do something real simple. You don't have to make your photo editing complex with all these plugins and panels and stuff. I don't use any panels except TK I use for sharpening because it's really good for that. But you could just darken the top with a quick levels adjustment and then just hide it. And if you wanted to darken the top, I just get the base paint down first, and I always go overboard just a little bit so I can get a feel for what it's going to look like. Then I might go to like, I don't know, 40% opacity down here. Get that in there. And this is just an experiment, right? And then I can just grab this opacity and I can dial it up like that. And you can see how that adjustment pulls all the attention out of the sides into the center. Now, I would do some more contrast work down here, but I like to get an idea first with one of these quick levels adjustments, and then I'll go forward with the more detailed work once I do that. So now I'm up above my camp, and the views keep rolling in and out with this fog coming through. But I got it centered with my tent right there, the bottom left, and this massive peak back there. Where the sun was just out in a second, it was just side lighting that peak. So all I did for this one is I just focused on my tent. And I'm just keeping these all at f16. It's just so hard to tell where the depth of field drops off in the snow that usually when I shoot up in the snow, I just keep it on f16 all the time. And just take the hit of lens diffraction. It's not a big deal. But looks like that peak's popping back out now. This is the ideal kind of weather for landscape photography. Basically unbeatable. Now it's coming back out. So here's the shot I captured from this scene once the cloud rolled through. And I like to use like a 20-second timer, and I'll put myself in the scene. It helps to really add scale and show a sense of the adventure. And I put these all in my portfolio as well. But one thing I wanted to show you guys here is I edited this whole photo and it all looks great. But notice I have my clipping turned on right here. And one thing I want to show you about bright snow or anything else that's really close to white, it's actually going to lose detail before it clips. So notice how it's not actually clipping white right here. But once you get up to about the 90th percentile of pure white on the luminosity histogram, then you're going to start to lose detail. Notice how if I darken this, you can really see the detail in this snow. And watch how when I brighten it up, right about where this part of the image hits 90th percentile, I start to lose that detail. So don't feel like just because you're not clipping white, you're going to have good detail in your image. And this is why a lot of people overprocess their image. They'll be like, I'm not clipping the image, it looks good. But then if they look at some of the highlight detail in the image, then it's clipping. If you look down here, notice how that detail is perfect. But if we go any brighter, I start to lose a lot of it. So just be careful of stuff like that. This area that I'm at is just surrounded by water. So you have the Puget Sound behind me, Strait of Juan de Fuca out there, which goes from the Puget Sound out to the Pacific Ocean. And then right back there is the Pacific. So you get all this crazy weather. There's the sun popping back out, and there's that peak. So as always, I'm just setting up one composition. And when you have good landscape photography light, I highly recommend just take multiple shots of the same composition over like 10, 15 minutes, because one of them will be absolutely mind-boggling, or maybe even the combination of a few of them, and you can just blend them together in Photoshop. But if I just rush myself and I take one really quick, I'm always like, get home, and I used to do this all the time and be like, oh, what were you doing? Why did you not wait till the light hit this part or this part? Because you want the light to be hitting the main centers of attention. So right now you can see there's some nice lighting right around my tent and those trees there, but there's not really much light on that peak back there. And I want the light to hit on my tent there. So it's that nice diffuse side light that gives it all the separation. Meaning if there's no light, meaning black, you're not going to have any shadow. If it's pure white, you're not going to have any shadow either. But when you have this diffuse side light, you get all these nice shadow details, and that's what really shows depth and sharpness in your image. There comes that peak. So a lot of people think their images aren't sharp because they didn't focus in the right spot. You might have focused in the right spot, but if you don't have good light, you just can't see the depth of the image, because you can't separate what's in the foreground, midground, and background, because there's no atmosphere between those different things, because the lighting's the same across all of them. Now that light's starting to side light that peak. Oh, here it comes. This is exactly what I've been waiting for. Oh yeah. Perfect. And what I'll probably do when I edit this is darken down the top up where these clouds are, and anything that's dark is going to move the eyes out of that area. So if you're looking at a scene, things that are dark are very useful because they can be used to push the eyes away from that area into areas that are bright. Same with saturation. You don't want to saturate everything, because things that are saturated grab your eyes and say, look at me. So saturate the things that are within your color harmony. You guys can check out my my color harmony photography guide. You can just Google Dave Morrow color harmony, or you can just type in the YouTube search. I have a video on color harmony as well. But you pick the things or the colors within your color harmony. Normally it's 2 or 3 colors that complement each other. You saturate those, and you leave everything else as it is, or you even can desaturate. Here's the raw file with the basic adjustments. When I'm out in the field, I'm always shooting for neutral white balance, meaning whatever's white, what I see with my eyes, that should be what's white on the back of the camera. When I get back home, the goal of raw is to maximize the color and light that I saw in the field. I'm not trying to do any drastic adjustments, and I'm trying to maintain the color harmony that I've selected in the field. So we can see color harmony here. We have yellow, which is in the highlights. We have blue, which is in the snow and the shadows, and then we have green, which is in the trees. This is a triadic color harmony. You can see it's in a triangle. So those are the only colors that I'm going to saturate in the image. Everything else I will desaturate. And you can even desaturate things that just look out of place. So notice down here, my pack's kind of grungy looking. It just doesn't look nice compared to the rest of that scene. I'm just going to desaturate it real quick and show you guys something. So I just grabbed the yellows, I desaturated it. If I make a mask here, even though it's within the color harmony, you can see that removing that color will actually keep the eyes from going there, because it's nice to have that pack there. It kind of shows that I'm on an adventure. But the difference is, let me lighten this up a little bit, that it's not really the main thing in the scene I want you to look at. So look at the difference there when I do that little pack adjustment. This is still within the color harmony, but you need to know what colors to saturate and desaturate within that color harmony. Then you have other colors such as blue. Now, blue is essential in this color harmony, but if we go and saturate blue and make it too blue, it can look really weird if it's the whole image. So don't just go saturate all the colors in your color harmony. But I bet if we take this blue and we just do it in the clouds a little bit, notice how it separates from the yellows because I'm using it only in the clouds selectively. And then I got a little bit of overboard here, so I can take it out of this peak. Just go with my black brush, right along that edge. I'll just do this quickly. I'm not going to do it as detailed as I usually would. But then you can dial the opacity up and down. And notice the difference adding that color harmony in there makes, because what you're making is color contrast here between warms and cools, and it's actually going to make your image look sharper and more contrasted with color. So I'm not even touching sharpness or contrast. I'm using color to do it. Now you could also concentrate on things like your greens. Notice how I'm all just doing simple hue, saturation, luminance adjustments here. I'm not doing anything crazy and complex. Now this is just clicking on this selector over here and controlling the greens. If I'm controlling the greens by selecting a really green color like this, I can bring them up, and then I can control with the lightness, and then you'll see that that's way too green. All I need to do here is invert it. That just hides it. And I just do this very softly. So I might go with like a 10 or 20 or 30% opacity. And then I'm just going to use my white brush, and I'll just do a few touches of green in here. It's going to bring the color harmony out. And anything in the shadows, notice how this is green here, but your eyes aren't going to see it as green, because things that get hit with light are going to show saturation. Things in the shadows are not going to show saturation. So make sure to work these colors in where the scene is getting hit with light, and you just want to follow where the natural color is already. And if it's not brushing in enough, you could just increase it a little bit, but see how crazy it can get? That is unnatural looking color. So I'll just back up a few steps. That's why I use these at very low saturation values. And I just work some of that in at different parts of my scene. And I'm always remembering my color harmony of triadic, yellow, blue, green. And I'm sticking with that during the whole edit. So you can see I added some color in there. You might want to add a little bit up here as well. And then you could say, okay, do I want to add it to my jacket? I just hold shift and turn that on and off. Check if I do. And I don't think I do. So then you can grab this opacity and bring it up and down and really get it dialed in so it looks good. So I think about 70% it looks good there. And then I can move on to the next steps of my editing. One of the things I see beginners do that makes their images look really bad, I actually like this full fog view too, is they will saturate dark areas as much as highlighted areas. So if you have an area like my tent that's getting hit with light from the side, it's going to be saturated. Wherever light hits, you're going to see more saturation. This is just the nature of the physics of color. But anything that's dark, like those trees back there, unless they're getting hit with light, you're not going to see saturation and shadows. So if somebody's image has a bunch of saturation in the shadows, you might not know why it looks off, but your eyes are just used to what color looks like. You can see where these trees are getting hit with light from the sun right there. They have color in them, so you do have some saturation. But the trees that are in shadow back here, no saturation. The Soul Duck River where I was at last night was right down there, and now it's completely covered up. So I was camping under all those peaks in last week's video. So one more simple adjustment I'm going to do here to make all the colors pop and separate is color balance. Go up here to highlights, and since this is within our color harmony, I'm going to add some yellow to the highlights. Now if I go too crazy, it looks horrible, right? And notice how we were talking about the detail. Adding color to something can also blow out its detail if it's a light color. Notice how I'm losing detail there because I'm adding yellow to it. So these are things you really have to learn, and check out my color harmony guide. It talks about the physics of color and light. But if I just add a very small amount of yellow here, it's going to really separate the highlight yellows, meaning the top portion of the histogram, from the blues, which exist in the midtones and the shadows, and it'll give a lot more perceived detail to the image. Notice how it separates this entire area down here. Keep your eyes down here while I turn this color balance adjustment on and off, and you can see the separation between the tent and the snow around it just from that adjustment. Now I'll take this and put it on color blend mode. Color blend mode makes sure it does not affect the tonal values, but only the color. So you could use this and brush it in to a specific area, or you could use it across the entire image and then just use the opacity and dial it up and down until it's in the exact perfect position where you want it. So I always get the color down first, make the adjustments, and then I dial the opacity in while zoomed out pretty far so my eyes can get a feel for the adjustment on the entire image. So it's about 10 minutes later and everything cleared back up. See, the sun is shining through now, but I've been working on a composition of Olympus back here. See how it's just getting hit with light right on the peak? That's what I always like to wait for. If the main center of attention gets hit with light, like I was saying earlier, it just drags everything to that, and then you can center the rest of the scene around it. So I'm just using these two trees on the bottom right to offset it. If you just split your scene down the middle, you have something on the bottom right or left, and then put the main center of attention on the left side of that middle, just offsetting it diagonally across the scene. You guys can check out my 5 composition secrets video for all those. So that diagonal, and then I have the diagonal, the snow again, off those clouds, which I'll keep really dark in the final edit. But I like these trees here because they're helping to show scale there. What I also like to do is I'll get the perfect composition dialed in with my eye that I want, and then I'll just pull out the actual focal length about 10% around the edges, giving me a bunch of extra wiggle room around the edges. And then if I like the original crop, I'll crop down into it digitally. But if I find myself actually needing some of that edge space, then I have it. What I used to do is I would shoot right on the actual crop that I wanted for my focal length. And sometimes when you get home and you see it on the big screen, you're like, oh man, I wish I had a little bit of extra room on the edges. So that kind of saves you from that. But I've just been continuously shooting this as those clouds keep rolling through. I am praying for a good sunset tonight. I really need one out here, man. This looks like the kind of conditions that the sun could just drop down there and just disappear, or it could just blow up. We will see. Let's throw those on the computer and see what they look like. So here's the first set of images I took, and I was talking about leaving 10% around the outside. One thing that's nice about this is that whenever you're taking shots like this, notice how this tree is going up above this ridgeline right here. That can really screw up the depth perception of the image because something in the midground is going above the background. So for something like this, you can just take that tree off and you can just crop it in. If you wanted to maintain your crop ratio, you could as well. It's up to you. I don't ever maintain crop ratios because I don't do prints. But now we have Mount Olympus back there, and I like this balance. So you have this in the bottom right, or bottom left, I should say. It's just balancing across to Mount Olympus in the top left. So this is we'll leave it dark. So dark to light to dark to light to dark transition. And then we have these trees here, and that's also going to show scale. If we didn't have these trees here, it'd be hard to tell the size of Mount Olympus. And that's really going to help me out in the final edit as well. I also took a bunch of other ones for this, so as the clouds roll through, I got some really cool conditions, and I'll blend these together. You can see I took a little variation there as well. I really like the diffuse light that came into this one. And then we have the zoomed in view of Mount Olympus. I've climbed up to the top of this, across this glacier field, all the way up to the top of this peak there, as well as these back here. Absolutely awesome climbing. But we can see the lights also changing and rolling through here. It's probably my favorite right in here. I'm going to work those transitions in from dark to light to dark all through this area to really show all the different layering of these peaks back here. It's about 10 minutes before sunset. You can see my tent right in there, and it's starting to clear back there a little bit. It looks like there's a clearing on the horizon, and this was all encapsulated in fog like 15 minutes ago. See the moon out there, but hoping I'm gonna get lucky. I got my composition set up. It's one thing I learned. If it's even a chance of there being good light, get your composition set up, start shooting, because I've had it happen where the light is there for like seriously 2 seconds, and if everything's not set up, meaning if you don't have your camera actually set up in spot, if you're just sitting around waiting, you'll completely miss it. So here's the composition I ended up picking. I'm gonna work on this peak as the main part of my composition. I was working some in there, really zoomed in like I was earlier, but I kind of like how this one shows Olympus in the back right and then the Bailey Range in the back left. I'm still using all these trees in the foreground, but I zoomed it out a little bit more. Still shooting at f/16. So this is the same idea that I was using earlier, where I'm using the bottom snow to offset the top clouds that I'm going to keep completely dark in the final image. Even if they're light in this one, I'm going to darken them down, and that'll bring the eyes back down to this part of the scene. Getting some really cool clouds rolling through here, and you can see the lights hitting. So I think there's a chance here. And I like how that little cloud's sitting up there in the peaks. I'm just going to keep shooting this one as this light changes and just hope for the best. But I think tomorrow the game plan is get up early while the snow's still crusty. It's actually getting pretty hard already. I just checked my thermometer, that little Bluetooth thermometer I keep in my kit, and it's 34 degrees right now. So it should get really nice and crusty tonight, which means it'll be easy to get down. Really tacky in the morning. All right, so here's first one. Just gonna check, make sure that foreground's sharp. That looks good. Trees are sharp. Man, that peak getting hit with clouds just looks so cool. And then I think I'm going to go up to ISO 200 just because there's a little breeze blowing through. It's always better just to quicken up the shutter speed a little bit. I wish that moon was setting. It's going to set right down there behind Mount Olympus, but not today. Alright, now we're getting some cool clouds back there in the background too. That looks sharp. Let's see. Yeah, that half a second's definitely a little bit sharper than that 1 second I was shooting earlier. Well, in this one, as I was talking about earlier, the light kicking through and changing, it's completely different back there on Olympus. And right now, all the summits of Olympus are peeking out. You can see that mountain over here. That's Olympus too. It just goes the whole way around through there. And I've been up on that little top pinnacle before. You can see all the way out over the Pacific on a clear day. When we were up there, check this one real quick. Back there on Olympus. Oh yeah, the light's just touching it. Man, it might get a little color. When I was up on Olympus, it was pouring rain in the morning. We were base camped like 5 miles before the summit. And then we started to climb, and there's this massive glacier field you got to cross. And there was just clouds sitting over it. And as soon as we popped up that for the final summit bid, which is like another 2,000, I think 1,500 feet or something, it just went completely clear. And then we were up above the clouds, and there were just clouds rolling through in all directions. I got some really cool shots up in the glacier from that day. But man, mountain weather is the absolute best. It's just so crazy. Oh, look at these peaks. Appleton's popping out now. Man, maybe I'll get a good sunrise. Sunrise is at like 5:45. Don't get much sleep this time of year. Now it's completely cleared. I'm going to use that shot from earlier where there's that cloud right in front of this peak. But it is sunset right now. I don't think it's going to get any more colorful than this, so I'm going to call it a night. If it does get a little bit more colorful, I'll show you guys on the computer when I get home. You'll have to cross your fingers and wait. Thanks for watching, guys. See you tomorrow.